Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Chess Titans. Playing against level 9 as black. This is where it's going to start to get hard because, as I have stated multiple times, I'm really more of an E4 game guy. Okay, so we have the English opening. Suppose I could try and transpose this into an Indian game, which I'm a bit more familiar with. Or I could just up and play C5. I think I'll try C5. Don't know what I'm doing, but when has that ever stopped me? Okay, so now I think that the general idea is to build the center. Each side, white'll probably fiend bishop along this diagonal. Get the knight out here, play up, being kind of my bishop. I don't really like symmetrical systems, especially as black. Because as a general rule, if the system is symmetrical, that just means, and you're black, that means that you're a move behind. Okay, so take that, grab a center pawn. Opens up the diagonal. If he takes with the queen, then I get to take with tempo. So maybe that's already a slight mistake that he's made. We'll have to watch out for the dark squares around my king if I fianchetto and castle. This pawn move does potentially support bringing the bishop out to here, attacking the queen. Also just gets ready to bring my bishop out and castle. I don't think that he'd be too terribly safe if he castled queenside. At this point, just because of the c4 advance. So maybe bring my knight down to d7, get it up to c5 or e5. But I do like how this knight right now is blocking this pawn. Or the f-pawn. I also might consider getting my bishop out here because it's not... This pawn isn't really going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think. But I could just be saying that because I don't really know the opening. Okay, I'll also want to do something with my queen at one point. And my rook, but I think that since he's not on this diagonal right now, I can afford to take the bishop's protection off of this pawn, and again, I don't think that I'd be doing anything with this pawn until the end game anyway. And maybe I can get some pressure on his c-pawn. And if he defends it, then that is opening up the diagonal, so let's do that. Get a rook to c8, try and build up some pressure along the c-file. Maybe get this knight over to here. Takes, and there'd be more pressure on this pawn. Okay, so I think rook to c8 now. Okay, so he's defended. But what does that leave me? Okay, he has some weak dark squares over on the queen side. So maybe I could even consider knight over here, just trying to get his dark square bishop off. He probably wouldn't allow that, though. What would he do? Here, or just back up, maybe? Could try and keep this knight out, but then that leaves my b6 square really weak. Could move the queen here, but I don't think that really does anything yet. If I go here, then he has knight here with tempo. Um, so I think now let's get on with this plan of getting my knights to the center. Okay, so now what? I could attack his queen, he takes my bishop, I take his queen, he takes my queen. No, I think that loses a piece. So I go here, he opens up the F file, and I try even harder to get that dark square bishop off. Well, I don't really see a way to save the light squared bishop anyway, so might as well try and get some F file pressure into strong center out of it. Okay, exactly as planned. Now where does he move the queen? He moves off the defense of the knight. Then I could maybe even just, like, take this pawn. Okay, I think that now the queen coming out would be good. For additional pressure on the knight. Maybe even swinging over to here later. Okay, so now if I take here, he take his knight, that looks good. I take here. Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing a problem with taking here. I think it just wins a pawn. I'd really like this bishop sometime. Okay, so he takes here, then I lose the exchange back. If I play e5, he takes. I take here, he saves his queen, I save my knight. So take here, he takes with the knight. I take his queen. He recaptures, I take his knight, save my knight. Maybe, let's see, so takes the knight, takes the pawn, sidestep. Oh, no, that doesn't win the exchange at all, because he has to save the queen after taking this pawn. Okay, yeah, so a lot of gibberish over there. And I apologize. Don't think that I want to go ahead and take the rook. So I take the rook, he takes the pawn, I come back down. No, I don't like that. It's going to be a very annoying bishop now, I suppose. Okay, so do I want to try and double on the F file? My king is rather open at the moment. But I also think that I want to save this rook somehow. So do I come up here with hopes of maybe doubling on the C file later? Or move over, then try and double on the F file? I do have to worry about that pin. I think that I scoot over a bit the C file. He moves his rook here. I don't think that there's an immediate threat on the queen, so... or on the bishop. That's what I meant. But if I move my rook up first, is there a retreat square, is the question for my bishop. Maybe I could bring it down to c5, get the light square bishop, or get the dark square bishops off. Okay, so the queen is hit, obviously. If I just came up here and took this pawn, would that be a problem? Yeah, because he'd take my bishop. Okay, so if I take the queen, he takes there. I don't like that. If I take the queen, move here. Or he takes, I move here. Takes, I take. He has to do something about that fork. And my C file is just dominated though. And later a rook c8 if this is doubled. Or even if it's not doubled, might just protect this bishop. Problematic. Okay, so if I just move here, he has that deflecting move. Maybe I just double now, let him trade off the queens. That's looking like my best bet, I think. Okay, I have to take with the bishop or else it would die. Okay, so now where to move the knight. It is not 100% critical as of yet that it's guarding from this pin. Because I'd have bishop here pinning to the king, doubled pawns, I guess, but... Could do that now. He wins this pawn, I win this pawn. So, take there. It'd be my connected passed pawns in the center versus his connected passed pawns over here, I guess. Let's try that. I think it's my best shot. Okay. Now if I move here, and try and get the bishop. Also threatening this fork. So I'm not down a pawn quite yet. I might be soon. Excuse me. Guess I'll move back here. Guarding the pawn for now, at least. Can I move here? Maybe I'd get a draw. Okay, cool. Doesn't want a draw. Now if I moved up, it would just take here, I think. If I do that, it takes there, I attack it, it comes here, yeah, I got nothing. Okay, so I always have this check. I don't want to defend this pawn, it is doubled after all. But I don't think my f-file is doing me much good right now. Maybe I should just work to try and bust that open. Might as well try it. Okay, so now this rook is in a pin. This pawn is in a pin to this rook. That's what I meant. Okay, so preventing me from taking there. Could use the knight to maybe intensify the pressure on this piece, but he'd take here. Come here. He just comes down, I guess. Come back up here, I don't know. Maybe I should take here first. He can't take that for now, anyway. That rook is really annoying. Now, I'd want to just push here and take, but he'd push in return, so... Maybe we can get the king to do something. He hasn't done anything for me lately. Like, walk him up over here. He comes over here, maybe. Okay, but now there's this fort threatened. Hmm. 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 Okay, now maybe back to the C file. Or like maybe ideas of checking and coming down and some combination of that type. Okay, I can kick this guy away. The knight's covering the pawn. And this looks to just win material, doesn't it? I take here, he has to save the bishop. And then I get this fork over here. Okay. Got myself an exchange. He'll take here now. No, he doesn't. Cool. Let's get that pawn up. Perhaps out of harm's way. Okay, get this rook up. Then get the other rook up here after the bishop moves. Have some rooks on the 6th. Well, technically 3rd, but... Okay, so I'd be on that pawn. He moves the rook down. Maybe I just advance my pawn. Or maybe even, like, rook e3 and push. Thing about this pawn over here is that it's shielding this square from the bishop for the rook ever coming down. So I think we go here. And push. My king should be enough to stop this pawn on its own. Okay, I think I can just take that. Will this pawn be a problem if I do? Not as big as a problem as this one would be. I don't think. Okay, so take here. Okay, now I go here, he goes there, I go there. Maybe. This pawn is what I'm worried about. So I think I'll get my king over here to help for a second. If the rook comes down, then just like push this pawn. Bishop moves, push this pawn, I think. Okay, so I take here. I'm gonna blunder this. Okay, so come up. He blocks. So I think I come here. Oh, this pawn is like really fast. So if I come here and he starts pushing, I push there, he goes back up. Give the check. King moves, I go up here. Takes, I take with the queen, I win. Let's go there. Pushes, I push, he goes back up. Check, king moves, go here. Yeah, I think I win that. Okay, so now that check is blocked. Um, okay. So if I do that, the rook moves here. I move up. He pushes, I just go here. Maybe. I don't know. Well, for now, maybe I just push. And then back up. Then I could take here. Okay. But now how does he stop me from queening after I just sidestep my king? Could move here, but I just take the bishop with check. He goes here, I take the rook. Here I just take either the rook or the bishop, I guess. Because if I take the rook, he takes, I take, he moves the king, I move here. See, now ordinarily I'd just be thinking take the rook instead of the bishop, but if I take the bishop, I think that I might still have forced queening. So if I take there, he takes my rook, I take here. He moves the king, I move my rook here. He moves back here. Move the king up. Yeah. Because then he'd be advancing this pawn, but I would have rook c3, rook c1 checkmate. And if he takes, of course, I just queen. So if he moves here, I move the rook here. He moves there to block, I move my king up. He moves his pawn. I move my rook to c3. Moves his pawn again. Rook c1, checkmate. And it saw that, I see. So now do I have a forced mate before he can queen? Okay, so check. He moves there, obviously just king there. Check, he moves there. Scoot the king, he moves the pawn. Check. Here, wait, check. Checkmate. Yeah, I have mate. Okay, mate in one. I think I'm gonna make him queen. Just as a little slap in the face. To a computer program. Okay, so level 9 as black down. Thank you for watching and tune in next time for Legendary Games against Chess Titans level 10.